we're going to cover Chapter 8, Section 1. Today we're going to learn how to use law of sines. So for law of sines, we're going to be using this to solve non-right triangles or oblique triangles. Now, when we solved triangles before, and we did the trig and we did the Pythagorean theorem, they were always right triangles. Now, when we use law of sines, it could be any kind of triangle. It doesn't necessarily just have to be a right triangle. Now, when we use law of sines, you're either going to be given two angles and a side, so angle, angle, side, or you'll be given angle, side, angle, which means it's the included side, or you might be given two sides in an angle, SSA. So you don't need to memorize, these that you're going to use, but just know that when you're given two angles and a side, it's going to be law of sines, or if it's side, side, angle, meaning not the included angle, then it'll be law of sines. So when I give you side, 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 all three sides, or side, angle, side, where it's the included angle, this is going to be 8.2. This will be Thursday's homework. This is when you're going to use law of cosines. So when you're given these two. And what you'll do is, to get the first missing piece, you're going to use law of cosines when it's side, 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 or side, angle, side. Then after that, you'll revert back to using law of sines. Now, if you remember, side, 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 angle, angle, side, angle, side, angle, those were all shortcuts to prove triangles congruent. But remember, there was no shortcut for side, side, angle, or also known as ASS. That wasn't a shortcut. So this is going to result in giving us the ambiguous case. Okay, but again, you don't need to know what's up here. You just need to know, what scenarios you would use law of sines first, and then the two that you would use law of cosines, and then law of sines. So let's take a look at our first example. It's always going to be the side over its corresponding angle measure. So lowercase a over the sine of a. Lowercase letter b, side b over sine of angle B. And then lastly, side length C over the sine of C. Now, when we go to use this law of sines, I'm not using all three of them at the same time. I'm only going to be using two at a time. So let me go back now and look at my given. So our first example, and again, it says solve the triangle. So just like we did before, once we're done, we will have found the measure of all three angles, so angle A, B, C, and side length A, B, and C. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a visual because they did not give me a picture. So let me go ahead and just draw a triangle here. They gave me angle C, it's 102. They gave me angle B, it's 29. And then they gave me angle A. They did not give me an angle A. I got to find that. Now, it doesn't matter where you put the A, B, and C. What's important, though, is where you put the side length letters. Remember, lowercase letter A is across from angle A. Lowercase letter B will be opposite angle B. And lowercase c across from angle C. This will be important. So let me go ahead and fill in those numbers. So all they gave me was one side, and that was side B, and it was 28 feet. So let me go ahead and fill in the three pieces that they gave me over here. B was 29, C was 102, and then side length B is 28. So you'll always be given three pieces, and then you got to find the other three. Now, what's nice, when they give you two of the angles, the easiest piece to find is that last third angle, because we can just use our triangle sum, and we know the three angles of a triangle always add up to be 180. So now to find missing angle A, all I have to do is add 29 plus 102. I get 131, and then subtract that from 180, and I get 49. So angle A is 49 degrees. You could also, since you're using your calculator for this lesson, here all you have to do, if you're using your calculator, if you'd rather just do 180 minus 29 and then minus 102, you can, or add it together and then subtract. It doesn't really matter. All right, so now that I found the three angles, now I got to work on finding the two sides. And this is where I'm going to be doing a proportion. So now here we can see that if I want to find angle or side A, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a proportion with this information. So I can do little a over the sine of A is equal to little b over the sine of B. I'm only using two of the ratios at a time. I'm not using all three. So now let me fill it in. I don't know side length A, so I'm going to leave the A there. I know angle A is 49, and then side length B is 28, and angle B is 29. And now I'm going to solve the proportion. So I'm going to cross multiply and do A times sine of 29 is equal to the sine of 49 times 28. So let me go ahead and cross multiply here. So sine of 29 times A equals 28 times the sine of 49. Doesn't matter the order that you write that down, because again, multiplication is commutative. So now my goal is to solve for A. So now I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 29. And again, I recommend you practice with your calculator, so that way you'll know if you have to put extra parentheses or not. So then I'm going to multiply 28 times the sine of 49, get that product, divide it by the sine of 29, and round to the hundreds place. And my side length A is going to be 43.59 feet. So that's the side length A. So let me go ahead and write it up here so I don't forget anything. 43.59 feet. And now let's work on finding side length C. So I'm going to still use my given. I'm not going to use this newly calculated A value in my proportion, because remember, that was a rounded number. So again, I'm going to go back to the B information that they gave me from the beginning. So I'm going to do B over sine B, because that was my given. And then now I can do C over the sine of 102. And now again, I'm going to cross multiply and divide. So I'll multiply sine of 102 times B. Oh, I need to change that C, because I know C. No, I don't know C. I know B. Sorry, I got to fix the B. It should be a 28. So this should be 28, because that was given to me from the beginning. All right, hold on. Let me back up. Let me just put it in all variables first. Sorry. Okay, let's do B over the sine of B equals C over the sine of C, and now I'll fill in the numbers. So 28 over the sine of 29, and then C over the sine of 102. Now I can cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply the sine of 29 times C, and then 28 times the sine of 102. So I get sine of 29 times C equals 28 times the sine of 102. And again, I'm solving for C, so I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 29. That's why I'm writing it underneath both. That'll cancel. And now on your calculator, you're going to multiply 28 times the sine of 102, and then divide that by the sine of 29. And that'll give you the side length C to be 56.49 feet. And again, we're rounding to the hundreds place. 56.49 feet. I've now completed my triangle. I have all 6 pieces of the missing information. 3 were given, so I only had to work to find 3. So our next example, let's go ahead and give ourselves a visual. CBA, and they gave me angle A is 43, angle B is 98, and side length C is 22. And this will be little a, little b. Okay, so again, let me set this up. A, B, C, 43, 98. Little a, I don't know. Side B, I don't know. And C was 22. So again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to find that missing angle first. So I'm going to add 43 and 98 and then subtract that from 180. So when you're given 2 of them right from the beginning, add them and subtract that sum from 180. And that last missing angle is 39 degrees. Now what I can do is I need to use this in both of my proportions. So I'm going to be setting up a proportion to find little a. I can do a over the sine of a is equal to c over the sine of c, and I'll fill it in. I don't know little a. I know angle A is 43, little c is 22, and then the sine of angle C, which is 39. And you're going to cross multiply and divide. So I'm going to multiply the sine of 39 times A, and then sine of 43 times 22. So sine of 39 times A is equal to 22 times the sine of 43. And then I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 39. Because my goal is to get A by itself. So that cancels that. And then on your calculator, you're going to do 22 times the sine of 43 divided by the sine of 39, round it to the hundreds place, 23.84 feet. And that's side length A. 23.84 feet. Now to find B, I need to do another proportion. So for this one, I'm going to do B over the sine of B, and I'm using still the C and the sine of C. I don't want to use the newly calculated side length A because it's a rounded number. So that's why I try to go back and use the given angle inside that I had. Even though C was a calculated number, it was an integer. It was a whole number. So it wasn't a rounded number. So now let's fill in our numbers. I don't know side length B, but I do know angle B. That was 98. So B over the sine of 98. Side length C was 22. And angle C is 39. I'm going to cross multiply. B times the sine of 39 and sine of 98 times 22. So sine of 39 times B equals 22 times the sine of 98. It doesn't matter if you put the 22 first or the 98. You're just multiplying it, and now divide both sides by the sine of 39 to get B by itself. And you get B is equal to 34.62 feet. And that's the last missing piece. Okay, Now, once you get your numbers, they should make sense. Remember, the biggest angle is going to have the biggest side across from it. So if you look at what we wrote here, you see how angle B was the biggest angle? And it's got the biggest side opposite. It's the 34. The smallest angle was 39, and across from it is the smallest side. So make sure your numbers are making sense. We can't do Pythagorean theorem on these because Pythagorean theorem is only good for right triangles. All right, so when we have the ambiguous case, which is going to be the SSA scenario, where you're given two sides and an angle, and it's not the included angle, this can produce either no triangle at all, you'll get an error on your calculator, or one triangle, or two triangles. Let's try the first example. I'm going to draw a picture. So we have A, C, and B, and they gave us little a, they gave us little b, and they gave us angle A. I don't know side C. So again, it'll help if you go ahead and write down what you're looking for. Because this is going to help me to see where am I going to go with my first proportion. So once I fill it in like this, I'm going to look to see what letters have the three numbers. So you see how right here, these are going to be what I put into my first proportion. So my first proportion I'm going to solve for is the angle across from the side that didn't have an angle. So I'm going to be doing A over sine A, because I have both of those numbers, and then I'm going to do B over the sine of B. And I'm going to look for angle B first. Now, if you remember back when we were doing solving the right triangles, remember whenever you look for an angle measure, you have to hit the second key, and it'll be sine -1. So we're doing inverse here when we look for an angle. So let's go ahead and fill it in. So I have side length A is 22, angle A is 42, side B is 12, but I don't know angle B. That's what I'm solving for. So again, I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 22 times the sine of B is equal to 12 times the sine of 42. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 22 because my goal is to isolate that sine of B. So now I have sine of B is equal to 12 times the sine of 42 divided by 22. Now, you could have gone ahead and multiplied this, but remember, when we're looking for an angle, we're going to do second sine, so it opens up sine -1. This decimal of 12 times the sine of 42 divided by 22 is going to be 0.36498033307. You're going to hit enter, and you're going to find out that angle B, rounded to the hundreds place, 21.41. This divided by 22. Then you hit second sine and put that number in there. All right, so now I've got angle B now. So that's going to be the 21.41. Now to find angle C, I'm going to do what I had done first on the other problem. To find angle C, I just add 42 and the 21.40, oh, that's a 41. Add those two together and then subtract from 180. So add these. Once I add those two together, I get 63.41. subtract it from 180, and my last missing angle is 116.59. That's angle C. And now I'm going to use that newly found angle C and do another proportion. And again, I'm going to go back to what was given to me from the beginning. So I'm going to be using the angle A and the side length A in my proportion. So I'm doing A over sine A, but now I'm looking for C, so C over sine C. And we'll fill in our numbers. So little a was 22, angle A is 42, and then C over the sine of 116.59. So now I'm going to cross multiply. And now once I do that, I get the sine of 42 times C is equal to 22 times the sine of 116.59. I need to divide both sides by the sine of 42. That'll cancel that. And then I get little c, I'm not looking for an angle, so I just do it right in my calculator. 22 times the sine of 116.59 divided by the sine of 42, 29.40 meters. Now, on those steps that were on the previous slide, what they had recommended you do is after you find this first angle, they said that you can stop and check to see if there's going to be a second triangle. But I like to go ahead and complete the first one. Now I'm going to go back. Because I had the SSA scenario, I need to see, can I do this all over again and make a second triangle? And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to take this angle that you found first, the angle B, and you have to subtract it from 180. So 180 minus the 2141. So this is the check for the second triangle. And then once you subtract that, you get 158.59. You now have to take this. Now, if you can form a second triangle, this is going to be the angle B of the second triangle. But what I need to do is take that sum or that difference, add it to the original given angle, which was 42. And notice once I add this, I get 200.59. How much do the three angles of a triangle add up to be? 180. Because this number is greater than 180, there is no second triangle. If that sum, once I added it to the original angle, if it was less than 180, then I have a room to make a third angle. So as soon as you subtract the first angle you got, so this was the first angle I got, I subtract it from 180, and then I take that and add it to the original. If this number stays under 180, I can make another triangle. So this problem is done. There's only one triangle. Okay, so I got angle A, angle B, angle C, little a, little b, little c. So they gave me angle A, 85. They gave me side length A, 15 feet. B is 25, and that's all I know. So again, what helps me is when I write this down, this tells me what I'm using in my first proportion. So I'm going to be doing A over sine A, because those are the two numbers I have, and then I'm going to find the angle opposite the side that they gave me. So B over sine B. So let's fill it in. So 15 over the sine of 85 is equal to 25 over the sine of B. So now I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. And I'll multiply sine of B times 15, sine of 85 times 25. So once I do this, I get sine of B times 15, and then 25 times the sine of 85. So I'm going to divide both sides by 15. And then I get sine of B. And if you'd rather, I'll just write down this. Once I multiply this and this, it's going to give me 1.6. Let me just go ahead and 1.6032447. Now, if you remember that pink slide I showed you from like 3 chapters? Remember, the range for sine has to be between -1 and +1. This should be a clue and give you the confidence when you do sine -1 and you put this decimal in there, you're going to get error because this is out of the range for sine. So we get error. So this tells me that no triangle can be formed. So the sides aren't going to be long enough. You know, like if you try to draw it, like here you could say A is 15 and then maybe B a little bit longer, 25. And then you would have tried to close it up and say this is 85 degrees because that should have been angle A, but you can't close it up. It wouldn't close up. The sides would be too short. So no triangle can be formed. So again, knowing what sine can be, a number between -1 and +1, as soon as I saw it was 1.6, that should have been a clue. Wait a minute, I don't even have to put it in my calculator. I know it's not going to work, and no triangle can be formed. So on WebAssign, you're going to type in impossible. Okay, so we're going to skip over 5 for today. We'll do it tomorrow. So let's try example 6. So again, this is the SSA scenario. So we don't know if it's going to be 0, 1, or 2 triangles until we do that first calculation. So once I do this, BAC, 31 is angle A, little a is 12, little b is 5, and I don't know little c. So again, I'm going to write down so I know what I'm going to be putting into my proportion to begin with. So angle B, angle C, I don't know. Little a is 12, little b is 5, and I don't know little c. Okay, so again, this is where I've got my 3 numbers. So I'm going to be finding angle B first. So I'm going to set it up as A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B. And I'll fill it in. So 12 over the sine of 31 equals 5 over the sine of B. I'm going to cross multiply. And I get 12 times the sine of B equals 5 times the sine of 31. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 12. I get sine of B is equal to 0.214591979. But remember, when you're looking for an angle, we're doing sine -1 with this decimal. And then once I do that, I should be getting angle B rounded to the hundredths place, 12.39. Now to find angle C, all I have to do is add 12.39 plus 31. Once I do that, I get 43.39. Subtract that from 180 to find the last missing angle. and I get 136.61. So that'll be angle C. And now to find the last missing side, one more proportion. And I'm still using the original given, so I'm going to do A over sine A. But now the newly calculated angle C, sine C, C over sine C. So let's fill it in. 12 over the sine of 31 is equal to C over the sine of 136.61. Cross multiply. So the sine of 31 times C equals 12 times the sine of 136.61. Divide both sides by sine 31. And C is equal to, once I divide this, I get 16.005, so 16.01 will be the last missing piece. Now, because this was the side, side, side scenario, we need to go back here now and check to see, so we need to check for a second triangle. And that check, we take 180 minus the 12.39. Once we subtract that, I get 167.61. Take that and add it to the original given. And notice again, it's too big. So because it's too big, no second triangle.